Hey, everybody, welcome to Skipping Lunch, Episode 2. That's what I'm decided I'm calling these Thursday streams. I've been mucking around here. I have a two camera setup. I was going to go through the Mevo multicam app, and my other Mevo decided that it didn't want to work on a network and connect to cameras anymore for some reason, even though it just was. So, single camera setup for me. I can't do the two inputs into EVMooks because I don't have that level. So, I was kind of doing a bypass, and I wonder if it knows, but we'll see. Anyway, welcome to Skipping Lunch. This is my lunch hour stream on Thursdays, trying to do something new and regular, which would be a lot of fun. And this helps me get content on the channel that is fun for me to do when I don't have a schedule that allows me to do things like deep dives into reviews. So that's kind of what we're doing today. Let's have some fun. First off, and I'm going to put this link in the, I can't even think, in the description below. I don't have it ready to put into chat right now. But I want to show you guys something rather interesting. So I don't play a lot of 5e. In fact, it really is not my favorite system to play. It's enjoyable enough, but it's just not something that is really my favorite thing to run at this point. So I'm not in the market for a whole lot of 5e stuff, but maybe you're still a 5e player and you really want some new monsters, some new material to run out. You don't want to give the evil company more money because they do things like send goons to people's houses. So this is the Hi King Eric. This is an alternative. This is Carwood Publishing, who has put out a series of monster books. I am not sponsored by them. I've never gotten anything free by them. I do have this PDF that I'm showing here that I bought through TTRPG, but it's a really nice monster book that has some incredible creatures in it. And the last time I was running 5e, I was using a lot of these creatures to throw at my party because I just thought they were unique. I love the art style. You can see that it's got a real heavy ink to it. It feels kind of comic bookish without being too overly. But yeah, the inks are really, really, really nice. Thanks, Dave. Very nice. And it's a nice layout. It's a typical 5e layout for that. But one of the really cool things about it is scattered throughout the entirety of the book are these callbacks to a lot of pop culture. The undead pirate captain is, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean. And it really comes out that way. You have the undead pirates, which is the crew of the Black Pearl. But also deep into it, you have things like callbacks to the things. If you ever wanted to have the thing in your D&D campaign. They have stats in this book, which is Monsters of the Wilderness, which is what Carwood Publishing is doing. But right now they're doing a Kickstarter, and I can't bring it up because I don't have the URL, and I'm going to put it down. But they're doing a new Kickstarter. Maybe I can do a screenshot. Give me 1 second. I'm going to bring that up for you guys so you can see it. Give me 1 second here, and I can probably do this. Yay. Come on. Open up. This is what I get for playing with cameras while I should be setting up my scenes while I'm doing it. I did have most of my scenes set up already. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to switch my screen share to this. So let me stop this because you can only have one at a time because why would you want more than that? And I'm going to go to my monsters of this, share, and we will, yeah, go ahead. And we're going to make this bigger. Darn it. Let's have some fun. I'm going to go to this thing. This is so fun doing this. Add to the scene. There we go. There we go. Haha. I can do things. I'm learning EVMooks as we do this. I don't even have myself window to window right now, but you can see me or should be able to hear me. I can see my voice working. But this is Monsters of the Dungeon for 5th edition and other RPGs. You can see they have 7 days to go in their Kickstarter. They're really looking forward to getting this out to folks. And like I said, I showed you the artwork of Monsters of the Wilderness. Really fantastic art that they do. Great write-ups. They build in a little lore into all of their games. so that you can see what's going on in the background, like how these monsters might be included. Really, really well done. And the folks at Carwood Publishing asked if I would highlight this for them during my next live stream, which I am only too happy to do. And like I said, I'm not sponsored. I had not gotten anything from them. They just asked me to do it as a favor to them. And because they put out such a great product, even though I'm not playing 5e at this point, if you are in the market for some 5e compatible materials that have a lot of really, really good stuff. Am I not talking? Hold on. Were you not hearing me anymore? But if you really want a good product that is 5e compatible right now, I do encourage you to do Monsters of the Dungeon. It's really cool stuff. I'm going to put the URL down below. And I'm going to put the URL down below in my description after we get done this, so you can go and fund the Kickstarter yourself if you are interested in it. It's a reasonable package, really cool stuff. So that is the Kickstarter that I wanted to highlight. Now I'm going to bring up some of the games that I wanted to highlight. First off, I've been meaning to do a review of this, and I wish I had my overhead shot for it, but I've been meaning to do a review of this for a while. This is a module that Alex Bates sent me. So this is something that I did get as a review copy. The Fire Pearls of Aya-Ghan. This is a system agnostic. When I mean system agnostic, there's like no detailed stats in there at all for it. But it's a kind of a Lost World adventure. Got some really nice art in it. Again, I wish I had my overhead camera working so I could show you it a little bit easier. And it's a neat little story of a village in danger. The artifact that protects them is kind of gone, and they need to be able to take care of that. And so that's kind of the way that it is set up. So if you're looking for a really nice adventure, that's actually that one thing a little bit bigger. If you're looking for a really nice Lost World adventure, you want to give your players in any system that you're playing a taste of kind of going out into the wilderness where no one is around them, or they're far away from civilization, and you want to give them a weird experience. This is actually a really nice little story to put them through. It's not that much on drive-through. Again, I'll put this in the description when we get done. Should be good. Just hang from the ceiling with your camera. Perfect overhead shots. I'm not moving the camera. Come on. That's not a bad suggestion, King Eric. I had a dual camera setup, and the stupid thing decided it didn't want to connect to my network. I'm a little upset. But that's the Fire Pearls of Aya-Ghan. I'm going to reread this and do a kind of a short form review of this. I might do a couple of modules that I got to look at. But if you're interested in something weird with some good encounter backdrops without being bogged down to any one particular system or having to rewrite the stat blocks that are in there, this is a really nice one to pick up. And again, I'll put the link to that in my description when we get off of this. Then, this is why I really wish I had my overhead shot. I'm going to look at Forbidden Lands. You can see this is a box set that if you were here last week, you remember I picked this up at PAX Unplugged back in December. It was a Christmas present. I have read it. I did not get a chance to review it yet. So let's go. Two words. Gravity boots. You don't have to move the cam. Hold on. I'm putting, that's now a comment that got into my chat. So thanks, Mages. I'm back on EV MOOCs today, so I can actually do this. Forbidden Lands, incredible game with great production values. Yeah, we're definitely going to be looking at that. So you think box set, right? And you go back to, and my friend Daddy Roller One, if you've ever looked at his channel, he just did a review of the Mold Basic set, which is where I started. If you box set, you're thinking I'll get a soft cover book and maybe a module or two, but you come in here and you look at the quality of Forbidden Lands. This is, I get highlighted with the typo. Well, that's what you get. Last week you were yelling at me about trying to steal musings, and I've been doing that for years. But this is a really high quality stitch book. It has a faux leather cover on it, so it feels really premium. It's a little larger than digest size. I think this is actually the same size as Savage Worlds, which I looked at a little bit last week, right? But when you open it up, there are things about it. First off, look at the interior artwork. That's the Forbidden Lands map on the interior of the book. But there are things about it that I adore, besides the size and the setting in the rule book, because it's running the Year Zero engine, but this is flat paper, so no glare off the screen, which is really, really good. I was just gently ribbing. Yeah. Yelling. I'm from Philly. Yelling is just yelling. But look at this artwork. Let me put that up there for you. I'm trying not to hit my microphone. This is all a throwback to back when I was doing the box sets of Mold V Basic and Cook Expert. It's a throwback to those old ink styles of artwork that you got. I mean, look at some of the artwork that's in there. But the production values and the layout are a lot higher quality because we've accelerated 40 years from when I was doing that, or advanced 40 years from when I was doing that. And now you can do things like computer designed layout to highlight different elements and make it look nicer. So you have really cool looking call outs and cool decorations that don't take as much hard work. It's still difficult. I've done layout, believe me, I understand that it's difficult, but you can do it without the headaches of back in the pre-digital age, which is when I started, and which is really a tribute to it in a lot of ways. How does Forbidden Lands play? I haven't played it yet, so it is using the Year Zero engine, which is a D6 dice pool. I mean, look at the art. Look at that art. It is beautiful. And it was, go back to talking about the Forbidden Lands system. So it's a Year Zero engine. It's a D6 dice pool. Sixes are successes. Yeah, it does look like the AD&D and actually Basic and Expert, King Eric. But it's D6s. Sixes are successes. Ones are failures. You can do things like push your roll to re-roll any dice but a one. And I need to go back and reread the rules. That's why I haven't done the review yet. I haven't had time to go back and do it. But I think if you push it and you have suddenly your ones now count, because if you fail after pushing a roll, these things really are going to hurt you. But you're looking for a number of sixes in order to succeed at a task, is the way that it runs. Look at that art. It's just beautiful. The setting is really, really cool, as I talked about, hinted at last time. There's actually a thicker Game Master screen or book too, so this is a little thicker than the players. Put them up side by side, just a little bit thicker than the players. So the setting is really interesting, and I talked a little bit of it being the Silmarillion with less hope, right? That's kind of how it came out. And that is exactly what it is. The humans who are here, it's a nice hardback, Mage. The humans who are here in the Forbidden World or Forbidden Lands, they came from another continent that was overrun. And so, hey, Curtis, good to see you. It was overrun, so they had to escape. And they had to get to this other continent, and the god who was there made room, and they said, you're going to separate. Here's the mountain range, and the other races will be up here, and you humans can settle down here. And of course, humans being humans, they just decide they're going to go anywhere, and there's a whole bunch of political intrigue and upheaval and religious intrigue and upheaval that goes in that drives some humans north, and then the humans from the south, they decide they want to go north, and it's really, really bleak, but it's got that Silmarillion feel to it of people who are exiled and now trying to make a place for themselves somewhere else. That's kind of the way Forbidden Lands works. And the lore, the way that it's the Forbidden Lands is that one of the commanders for the Southern Humans Empire betrayed the Empire and decided to claim power for himself. And so they cut off all contact between North and South. There's always a wall. There's always a wall. They build a big wall so that you can't literally move north and south. And so they're sending exiles up to the north. And for centuries, there was this thing called the blood mist, that if you were away from home at night, this mist would come down and it would kill you. And that is now lifted. And so now you have adventurers who are from the South, or you have adventurers who grew up in the Forbidden Lands who are now wondering, well, what's out there? What have we lost? What's beyond the horizon? because you couldn't even spend the night in another village. If it wasn't your home, you would die. And now suddenly you don't have that problem anymore. And so that's we want to avoid any interior imperial entanglements. Is good. And so now you can get out. And that's what the Forbidden Lands is about. It's about re-exploring this world and all these ruins of the nations and the kingdoms and the fights from before, and figuring out what's going on there. All the races, the classical races are there. Again, this is a throwback to older school play. So you have elves, you have dwarves, you have halflings, you have goblins. I forget which, I think you can be an orc as well, because they're in there. Let me look at the table of contents really quick. It's been a couple months since I read this. It's, and they're not races, they're called kin in this, by the way, which I think is a nice switch. Really a good idea. So you got, let's see, you have elves and humans and half elves, which I'll talk about them in a second. Dwarves, halflings, orcs, wolfkin. So you can be a anthropomorphized wolf, goblin, and orc. So that's the way that it's set up. Half elves are really cool because the way that half elves are run in this is that the interbreeding between elves and humans happened. Some of the kin from that stayed up north among the elf kind, and some stayed in the south among humankind. And the ones in the south are the ones who became very power hungry. They saw themselves as the future, and they wanted to delve into forbidden magics. And in fact, the guy who betrayed the Southern Empire was a half elf sorcerer. And the 17th don't want anybody go in the Forbidden Lands. Yeah. And so the half elves from the south, they're kind of really diabolical and classical evil, right? The half elves from the north are arrogant. They see themselves as having the better traits of both elves, who they think of, well, we don't want anything to do with the regular world. We'll just stay here in our trees and we'll live in our dreams. And so they look down on their elf kind as being kind of too detached, but they look down on humankind for being too myopic. And so they're a little bit arrogant in the north. So the half elves are not the outcasts. They're more like, yeah, we're the future, baby. And that's kind of cool that way. And then halflings and goblins are really cool because they're the same race. Some people, or some halflings get born or some goblins get born and they turn out to be goblins, and some turn out to be halflings. And the goblins are kind of like the traditional chaotic mess. We're free and we're going to go out here. They're not necessarily evil. They're just like, screw civilization. We're going to go do our own thing. And then the halflings, which are traditional, nice, no, they're not drow. I'll talk a little bit about it. They're more ents, if anything. But the halflings are embarrassed by their goblin kin, and they're trying to hide the fact that the two are connected, and so they're overcompensating. Like the halflings are Minnesota nice. They're that passive aggressive nice. This is not Tolkien. Let it go. Someone's saying Bilbo was a goblin. No, that's Tolkien's world. This is the Forbidden Lands. They're two different things. But they're overcompensating with their niceties, and we're all folksy, but they're very gossipy. So that goblin nature of them comes out in that way, that they're kind of like behind the scenes going, talking to each other. It's an interesting take on goblins and halflings. That's really, really a rather interesting concept. So I like that. And then the elves are a little bit different in Forbidden Lands. They have a gem inside them, which is kind of like their long life. Yeah, they drive giant. Exactly. They drive giant trucks and they throw stuff out the stacks, right? They're overcompensating for something. That's exactly what the halflings are in Forbidden Lands. But the elves have that gem, which is their heart, and that's kind of like the essence of their long life. As long as that gem's there, they're basically immortal. But they want to kind of live in a dream. They see kind of like in interacting with the physical world as beneath them. Particularly, so the older an elf gets, the more detached they become. And in fact, some elves will get so old that they'll have their gem removed and put into a tree, and they become the Ents. So it's an interesting take on how you get Ents in this world as well. And so when you meet an elf, usually if they're out and about in the Forbidden Lands, they're probably younger. and they are still a little bit more connected to things. So, and you can, if you want to do the Tolkien, everybody seems to want to do a Tolkien thing. It's the elves who have gone north into the dream. They're going to Valinor, right? They've left. They don't want anything to do with it anymore. And so it's an interesting take on how elves work. Dwarves are really cool because they think they've been tasked to build up the world, and they just see the other races that are on the world as getting in the way. Like they're like the pest at the picnic, and they're just trying to shoo them out of the way so that they can keep building, literally physically building the world higher and higher and higher and higher. I think if memory serves, are trying to get to their god, and that was their task they were given to do. They have to build the world out so big that they can get to the place where they're supposed to go, and so that's what they're all about. So they're look at other species that are like they don't have the same task. Like, yeah, you're not as important as us. So that's one of the downsides of the Forbidden Land system, I think, is that it's very difficult to have in lore, it's very difficult to have a mixed kin party because the kin don't do anything together. They're very much separated. But I think if you can play with it a little bit and tweak it so you have folks that are just like, no, we want to interact with people, and then you're going to have to be very creative to get a mixed kin party to work together or even come together. And so that's kind of thing. So those are the two main things that are in the box set. Very good. Then you have this book, which is a legends generator. So this is how you're going to build up part of your adventure and your backstory of your character. Got some nice tables into it. This is just a nice stapled soft book. Reminds me of the old Moldvay Cook Basic and Expert, right? And so that's got that stuff in. It's going to give you some nice background information that you can roll for and then apply to your character, which is fun. So it's got backstories, a legend generator, and a monster generator because they want you creating your own monsters. There's a nice bestiary in the GM's guide too. Finally, and I have not even opened this all the way up yet, not even finally, but there is a huge map, and I really want the overhead camera for this. It's just nice. I want to frame this, right? And the idea behind this, just see, I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I want to ask, interested in what your players did. But the idea behind this is that you hang this on a wall because this whole world is unknown, right? Your players are trying to find what's out there. And so the GM is kind of like saying, okay, well, here's a ruin here, here's a ruin here. This is what we have to discover. But then say they want to go back and do that. Well, how do you do that? Well, they gave you stickers to stick on the map. So every campaign in Forbidden Lands becomes its own because you're putting your own town here, your own ruin here, your own cave here. That's the idea behind it. It's an interesting take. So if you have a permanent setup for your game room, which I do not, you can actually set it up and put it out there for them, and they can come back and see exactly where they have been. And if you're doing this on a virtual table, then you can, or like virtual tabletop, you can have the digital map up and do the pins the same exact way. So there's ways to do it. But for in person, if you have a permanent game set up, you have that huge map, put it on the wall, and you're good. All right, so let me take the two questions. I have two things from folks. So let me get just sales first. So I'm assuming this was for when you were playing in Forbidden Lands. Your characters had learned about these things. They treated them as old wives' tales. Then they saw some world pillars extend above and the ground below with some dwarven stone singers behind. Yeah, isn't that really cool? The dwarven lore is probably my favorite part of Forbidden Lands. Like literally, they're building these pillars to like prop the world up, and they're singing. The dwarves think, if you remind me, but correct me if I'm wrong. The dwarves literally think they're made out of stone, or that's their lore, which is really cool. And then let's bring up King Eric of All. Serious question. Have you ever played on a table that has a built-in monitor that displays dynamic living maps? Yes. In fact, I did that for my Castles and Crusades campaign that I did yesterday. I just take a TV and put it on put it on the table, and that's the map. And so I keep it updated as we do things and go through, so I can show them a picture. Well, you've been here and you've been here, and this is what's going on. And that's actually been really helpful. It was really cool for a hex crawl that we did in one of our adventures. They had to journey from one point to another. And so we had the map up, and I had a little icon for their party, and I was showing them where they were going as they were guided by this kobold. They're friends of kobolds in this world, and they had to get from one point A to point B to take a rampant, like a semi-tamed drake to the kobold city, so it get away from the humans and stop eating their sheep and let the kobolds live in peace. So that was the idea. But that living map was really cool. I could put it up, and so I've now set it up into I have different maps now to show them where they are, so I can always zoom in and zoom out. No, the TV was not recessed into the table because I don't have a set gaming room. This is my dining room. I put it on top of my dining room table. If I started cutting holes in it, I probably would not be married. And I do enjoy being married, so I'm not cutting holes in that. I am drool worthy of being able to set up my own game room and put a TV inside. I don't live in that world right now, so that's not where I am. And I love that. If you guys are looking at chat, Joslyn says, "Yeah, the living map is worth framing after your campaign. The memories." I just think that's a really really cool thing. So that's just a quick look at Forbidden Lands and what I like about it. I'm going to reread these two books to do a proper review, to look at the layout and the design, and go in some more about the lore and the rules. I think that the Year Zero engine really takes off with Forbidden Lands. I did read Coriolis, and I did my review of Mutant Year Zero, and I thought they were okay games. Mutant Year Zero, I know a lot of people love. It's too stressful for me. And Coriolis, I haven't reviewed it yet because I don't know how I feel about this game. I'm still up in the air. I'm trying to digest it, and I read it over a year ago. But for Forbidden Lands, this is where the system really took off for me. I was really happy with that. So that was kind of cool. Now, let me tell you just a couple of stories from my table of what's going on. I've already mentioned my Castles and Crusades campaign. And we had our last session this past Tuesday, and we had to introduce a new character because I had my first PC death in a game. It's not that I haven't had the opportunity to have a PC die. It's just that the dice have always favored all my PCs in my games. But this was the first time that, oh, shoot. So let's tell the story. And actually, I had this story up on my channel, but I love the story. It's an adventuring party that came together. They were just fulfilling a contract, and they've kind of gotten sucked into this adventure far from their hometown. And there's a paladin in it who wants to destroy evil. This is what paladins do. And there's a rogue in it who is more interested in, gaining stuff, but also is very leery of people who are too powerful because it would stop him from being able to gain stuff. And they met in this ancient library that they discovered below a giant ant hive. A mage or a scholar who was studying an ancient library, and he seemed a little bit manic. He's very obsessed with a book. And in this world of Centron, the lore is that the former world was a quadrangle, is what I always called it. And there were 4 different lands that you could go to. And there was a shallow inland sea, very calm in the middle between them to allow connection between the different lands. But there was a wizard of great, great, great power who did not like having to travel across the sea. He just thought it would be better if all the worlds were brought together. And so he began to pitch to people a way to physically bring the 4 worlds together, and or the 4 lands together, and everybody balked at this. So he kind of lost himself a little bit and really went all out into trying to bring them together anyway on his own. And there was a big war and a big fight, and he finally got everything established to do it. In the middle of casting his spell, one of his apprentices stabbed him in the back. Literally, the magic went wonky and exploded, and instead of a nice gentle push together, the world went and came back, and new mountains were formed, and civilization went back to the Stone Age for a little bit, and so that was the source of all the ruins for me in this world, right? So this book that scholar is all sucked into. No, that was not the game of the live trap. This is actually my in-person session, Eric. So this book that the scholar is linked to is actually linked to that wizard who brought this world together and destroyed civilization. And so he's obsessed with it and he's focused on it. One of the party members is also obsessed with the history of this. It's called The Shattering and Vidoth and all of his magic. And so he's like, I'm going to take a look at this book. And suddenly he has to make a save in order to not become totally obsessed with it. And they described it as like tunnel vision, like suddenly everything in reality blacks out and all you can see is this page. He made a save by 1 on the throw and he could pull himself away. He's like, oh, wait, there's something wrong there. Well, their rogue looks at that and goes, yeah, I think we need to do something about that book. And so he excuses himself from the room with a cobalt blue, or the ring with a cobalt blue stone in it that the scholar's apprentice gave to them, saying, literally saying, if my master unleashes his power, this may save you. He kept it in his pocket and didn't tell anyone that it had been given to him. He left the room, but before he did, he looked at the paladin and said, hey, here, take my torch, burn that book. We need to get rid of it, and then left. And so the paladin, wanting to destroy evil, and I'm sitting here going, please don't do that, please don't do that, please don't do that, said, yeah, I'm going to burn the book. And the mage went, no, like did the Darth Vader yell, no, and unleashed this cone of cold at him or her and froze her solid. And Castles and Crusades has a negative 10 hit point rule that's built in. I think he took like 32 points of damage and had 11 hit points to start. So Sonya was just dead outright. So there was no going. And the party just went, okay, well, we're leaving now, and just left the body there. I'm thinking, well, maybe they'll do an adventure and I'll get to figure out they need a relic to do a resurrection. Like, nope, first level, we're out. So they just left. So we had to introduce this player's new character. We rolled the character up the other week, and he rolled up, I think I'm going to play a ranger. So we rolled up a ranger together. Incidentally, when we started doing it, the player started rolling dice and was like rolling ones. And we did 46 drop 1 straight and then arrange as you want. I think that's actually the base Castles and Crusades. And he kept on rolling like 1s and 2s. I'm like, no, this is not good. He's like, well, this is the only 6-sided die I have. And we're doing this online. I was doing it trustworthy, but the trust system, me and another player from the party are there, and we're talking on Discord, and we're like, wait, stop. This is the die or the dice set that you were using when this character died? And you're like, oh yeah. We're like, no, you can't do that. He's like, whoa. So I actually made him I have a huge bulk set of dice. I made him take 3 sets home. And it's like, you isolate those. You're not allowed to use them anymore. I mean, you can't do that. There are rules to things, right? So we put him on the digital dice, and he started rolling decent scores. And he came up with this ranger. What's your ranger's name? Rick. Ranger Rick is now in the party. And so they had to bump into this character on Tuesday night. And so I had them exit the place. They talked to the mage's apprentice, going, you really need to deal with this guy. You might want to get away from him. He's a little cuckoo at this point. Okay. I can't remember if they gave back the ring of frost protection. Ranger Rick. Yes. It's Ranger Rick Jameson. I don't know. This player's last character was the paladin with red hair, named Red Sonja. They like 80s music, 80s pop culture. I don't know. So they had to meet this new character, and they exited the dungeon that they were at. All the ants were dead, and they were walking for a while, and they came they became aware of some conversation going on ahead of them. Some hobgoblins had surrounded a unknown figure, and were demanding payment from them. And so there was a hijinks and a fight and whatnot. And so they just, well, who are you? So my name is Rick. Okay. And I've been tracking you for some time, they're like, you're tracking us? They've been together for like 3 or 4 weeks in game. He's like, why are you tracking us? And he went, um, well, I heard that my sister was traveling with you. And everybody's like, oh, crud. It's like, yes, I've never met her. I just found out about her existence within the last year. And I did track her down. I very much wanted to meet her. Do you know where she is? And the rogue, who is a little bit overcome with guilt at this point. The player was actually role playing him and just kind of rolling in a corner, goes, "Yeah, just I've never had consequences to my actions before. This is a new experience for me." And he goes, "Well, I know exactly where she is because she's a block of ice down in this library. It's not going to do you very well, though." So they had to have this awkward conversation of bringing this new character in, and like, I'm disappointed by that. They said, "Well, you want to come with us?" And he's like, "Well, is there money in it for me?" He rolled in the backstory. He's all about the coin. He's like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "Okay." So now he's joined the party. But it was rather interesting to for them to come in together and be like, "Yeah, we know exactly where she is. Not going to do you any good though, but we can show you where to go." But didn't come in. I thought it was a nice way to interact with the new character coming in and making the backstories intertwine a little bit. It was kind of fun. It's a very good. Is Ranger? Yeah. Um, and so that was kind of cool. I introduced a new character, a new NPC, who is a dwarf with a very strange accent and very strange looking clothes, and an island which exists because Incarnate had a little bit of a glitch when I was lowering the terrain. So I was like, I'll put an adventure there, in this lake in the middle of the valley that they're in, and I had him swing them by, saying you can't walk through the woods. There's too many hobgoblins around. And they saw these ruins out on the island. He says there's ancient magic there, and he's kind of disappeared now. And they found out from the kobolds that they call him the ghost miner. And they don't think he's a ghost, but they can't figure out where he's from. He's just kind of always been there. And they don't know why. So they get to explore that mystery now. I think they're going to hopefully go to the mountain because I've made the most of the dungeon. So I hope they go there. Otherwise, it's gonna be like, whoa, random stuff for the next 2 weeks or the next 2 months. Yay. And so that was kind of their session for that. We had a lot of players who couldn't make it, so they just went through and they got back. One of them's trying to now learn Kobold. I have a whole list of sayings that are Kobold sayings now. They discovered a new mushroom that does weird things to you. I didn't, in 1,000 years, I didn't think I'd ever be doing that for a game. But it was a fun time. It's a neat table, and that's actually my first in-person table. So it's nice for me to do it. We just do it once a month. They come in. They won't go because you are prepared. Thanks, Dave. Of course they won't go. Actually, I think they're really interested because I tied it in the backstory. As soon as they said old magic, the one character's like, we're going there. And I'm going to figure out a way to tie it in, I think, to two other characters' backstories. I need to go back and look because they're all on their own little quests. At my other table, so I run basic fantasy RPG on Thursday nights. So last night I did this. DM's Murphy's Law, exactly. So I roll basic fantasy RPG on Thursday nights. This was last night, and so, or is that tonight? What's today? This is Thursday. It's tonight. No, is it tonight? Last night. What day is it? I don't even know. It's Thursday. It's tonight. I don't know what day it is anymore. That's how weird my schedule has become. So we're doing that tonight. But last week, they're in an elvish town. They've just gotten back from this really nasty dungeon. They almost got killed by a gibbering mouther. That was a lot of fun to do, by the way. They had some really good use of the web spell to save themselves. So they got out, they got back to this place, and they're just kind of exploring the town. And one of the characters who is center of attention a lot of time, he's like, I'm just going to go out in the town and let them do whatever they want. So he sat back and just let them role play, which I thought was really good of him. And one character who does not typically go out of his way to role play, I have to draw him in. This is the first time he's ever played a game. He's been doing it for a year and a half now, but it's still new to him. So he decided, well, I'm gonna go look for like a local bar. What do you mean? I want to go to a place that's like off the beaten track. I want to go see what's going on there. Okay, fine. So there's a ferry that comes into town. It's a hidden town. The only way that you can see the paths that lead you there are if you've actually made it. There's a magic behind it, so you have to make it to the town before you can see the between the see the paths or even see the ferry to get you back and forth. You have to have been there before. It was really cool. It was a really nice hex crawl out in the middle of nowhere. They all almost starved to death and died. It was like for 3 sessions they did it. It was really cool. But now they're here and they're settled and they can see the paths and get through the forest fine. So he's like, I'm gonna go check out the ferry and see if there's any bars up there. I'm like, okay, fine. So he walks up to town, and I described this dive bar. Well, it's an elvish town, and it's actually very, very nice. It's very clean. So what passes for a dive bar in this gorgeous, very natural blending town, right? And he goes in, and there's a mixed company of people there. It's run, I think, by a halfling. Halflings are always running bars in my towns. I don't. Oh well. It's run by a halfling. And he goes in, and he doesn't order a drink. He just walks up to the bartender and he goes, "So what's going on around town? Like, tell me what the rumors are." I'm going, "Oh, this is going to end well," because he's like properly dressed going into this dive place. And so you have old school. You can do these. They do save Jamesons at the bar. An old school game and basic fantasy RPG is one of them. You can do reaction rolls. So I went, well, let's see what a reaction roll is, and you add your charisma bonus to it. And in my defense, not only do I have halfling bar owners, let me put this up from Epic Solo, just so folks know what I'm talking about. Not only do I have halfling bar owners, in my game, for some reason, bugbears are always involved in the restaurant business. Like they give up, wars. Like, this doesn't mean anything. I'm going to go run a bar or run a restaurant. Every world that I've done, this has happened. I don't know how that has happened, but it's just something that's gone on. So anyway, he goes in and asks for this, and he rolls his reaction dice with a -1 charisma modifier and gets a 0. Or no, excuse me, gets a 1, and because it's 2d6 or no, he gets a 1, which is instant attack. So I don't want to just have the halfling pull out like an axe and like start hacking at him. So I'm like, listen, bud, why don't you get out of here? Finish your beer. And he throws it down and slashes everywhere. He's like, get out of here. I don't want to see your kind in here. Goes out. He's like, oh, okay. Well, he's a dwarf, this guy. And he starts slipping around. He's like, I'm going to look around the room. He's like, you're going to go interact with more people after that? He's like, yeah, why not? Okay. I'm not running any more or rolling any more reaction rolls after this. And he ends up sitting down at a table with 2 dwarves who are just looking at him funny. And he does the same thing. He goes, so tell me what's going on in town. What's all happening around here? Is there anything interesting around here? And the guys are looking at him like, everybody in the bar at this point goes, this dude's a cop. Like, that's the reaction that they all like, this guy's a cop. And they're like, why? He's like, oh, we're just looking. We're in between adventures. We're looking to earn some quick coin. Okay. So they go, well, yeah, we trade some goods. What kind of goods? Goods. Okay. And one of our routes has been disrupted. We don't know what's going on, but folks who are bringing our goods into town from here, they've stopped showing up, and we kind of like to figure out why. Hey, maybe you can help us discover why our goods are not making it into town anymore for us. Wouldn't that be great? Oh yeah, this sounds like right up our alley. I have to talk to the rest of my group, of course, but maybe we can do this. Like, sure. Why don't you come back tomorrow? Say, 5 o'clock. We can discuss materials with the rest of the party. Yeah, we can do that. Sure. What are your names, by the way? And they look at him. They're like, I'm Agent 1. That's Agent 2. Great. Nice to meet you. I'm Nakare Hammerblood. He's totally giving himself up. Like, this is wonderful. We'll be back tomorrow at 5. And he kind of leaves. Everyone just like, yeah, he's a cop. And they're hoping he goes out and either figures out why the disruption of their goods, which is not nearly as nefarious as it seemed. I can't say anything now, but in case someone from my party is actually playing, he can either figure it out or they can get rid of a cop. For them, it's like a win either way, right? But he's all excited that he did it. So that was fun for one of the players to step back from being center of role playing and let someone who doesn't typically role play take his hand or try his hand at being the center stage, which he doesn't normally do. And it was neat for that. But it was also adventure hook, right? Yeah, he's a cop now, or at least everybody thinks he is. So it's kind of cool. My Monday group, which is someone had asked me about the live stream where the mage fell and died in the pit trap. That was a Shadow Dark. We do a bunch of one shots right now, or one or two shot adventures with a whole bunch of different systems. And I'm not GMing right now. I did the Shadow Dark. That was the last one that I ran. But we've done Dungeon World. I just play tested a 5e Spelljammer the last 2 Mondays, and that's actually the one shot that the GM is going to run at my fundraiser on Saturday coming up. If anyone's in the Philly area want to come, and so that was kind of fun. So we're going through that. I would very much like to run a one shot of Numenera with them next. So I'll probably jump into GMing them in a little bit. Probably in the next couple of weeks or so, and I might actually live stream that. So that actually might be fun. But those are my groups that are going on. And then on Saturday, I'm doing one shot day where I am running Easy D6, which is an absolute blast. If you have never played Easy D6 or looked at it at all, I have 2 videos on it. One explaining the rules of play, and the other one doing a review of the book proper. He did just come out with the Book of Quests and is working on something else. I think he's trying to come out with an official post-apocalyptic setting for it. And they released their own license. You can actually put a logo on and say, this is compatible with Easy D6 now, which is basically like, hey, don't steal my stuff. That's the extent of the license. It's really fun. So third-party folks are now going to start selling stuff for it. Great system, perfect for one-shots. There's no experience, no levels, there's no stats. You have boons, roll advantage. You have banes, roll disadvantage. That's essentially your character. And then you have different things that they can do based on what background and skills you choose and what archetype, or basically their hero path is what it's called, you choose. And that's basically it. Cool combat, really fast, totally gonzo. If you've never looked at Easy D6, it is my favorite one-shot system. And also coming up, I have in the mail, finally able to pick it up. We'll be here tomorrow. We might do a flip through of it next week if I get my stupid overhead camera working. I'm hissing at it. I have Index Card RPG finally showing up. I know folks in the channel have asked about that in comments. I just haven't had a chance to get it. It was out of stock. I didn't have cash. It was in stock. I had cash, and I went and got it. So yay. That'll be coming up pretty soon. So I'm really looking forward to all of that. So in my chat at this point, I'm going to put the link to that Fires of Aya-Ghan. Look, I mean, it's such cool artwork on the front, right? It really took to me. I'll put a link to that on DriveThruRPG. It's not too expensive. And I'll put a link to the Carwood Publishing's new Monsters book that's coming out that's on Kickstarter right now. And again, let me show you the artwork of that. Let me change my screen share because it is worth seeing for folks who came in late. This is their production, their layout. The artwork is beautiful. Let me scroll through a little bit. Cool lore that goes into it, and just absolutely gorgeous stuff. I want to use these crystal spiders at some point if I ever get a chance to play 5 or run 5e again, which is not going to happen anytime soon. But just, I mean, an undead mammoth. I mean, come on, don't you actually absolutely want to play with that? And the artwork is so it's beautiful, comic bookish, really cool ink lines, the lines coming in, and then the inking on the inside is really nice. But that is Carwood Publishing, and they have a Kickstarter right now that I will put the link in the description as soon as we get off of here. It is just about $12.50, so I'm going to need to get going. But hey, listen, folks, thank you so much for playing that. You convert, yeah, Wood, I'll be totally interested. You can convert them to whatever system you want. Yes, I totally can. Especially, it'll be easier for Castles and Crusades. But sometimes I'm just lazy and don't feel like doing it. Plus, I'm making my own monsters, which is also fun. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll do that on a Thursday stream sometime. That'll be fun. I want to play with a rampaging undead mammoth. My players might not want to. Let me put that on there. That might be the line of the day right there, Mage. My players might not want to run with the undead mammoth, but I would have a lot of fun. That would be really cool. And also, no typo in that one. Nice. So that's what I got going on, and I am going to be running my one-shot day. I've got 22 players at 4 tables, which will be fun. I still have about 8 slots left if people want to join in on some stuff. If you are in the Philadelphia, South Jersey area, and I'll bring a report about that next time. It should be fun, and hopefully we look at our index card RPG. Coming next up on the channel for review, I did start reading Numenera Destiny, which, as I had thought, a slight reduction in your video quality. My bandwidth is getting one, so I'm gonna have to remember to get my wire and run it up here. What area? Good grief, what is going on with my bandwidth all of a sudden? Sorry about that. What area in South Jersey? It is South Jersey is Palmyra area is where I am at. I'll put a link to that down below in the description as well. We're running from 1 to 5 on Saturday. But anyway, coming up, I just started reading Numenera Destiny. That is indeed about more domain play, trying to build the destiny of becoming a world. It's interesting so far. I'll try to do a review of that coming. It me a little while to read it. And I just read Savage Worlds, the core rule book, which is, I showed it off a little bit last week. That's a lot more crunchy than I had originally thought. I'm waiting for Dave, who was watching the stream earlier. Maybe I'll have him run me a one-shot through it so I can do it. But I want to review that pretty soon. And I'm going to be reviewing Forbidden Land, so I'll be reading that coming up. So what's going on? And a lot of fun. And I created a new bumper and logo for the motto. Did put that in my store as well if anybody's interested in a mug beer glass of it, because it looks really cool. I'll see that in a second. But that is, it's less crunch than it sounds. I know it is. There's just fiddly bits to move around with Savage Worlds. We'll talk about that on Discord. But that's what I got. I am looking forward to all the games that I'm going to be going on, that are going on in the future. And I am really, really, really looking forward to talking with all of you about it. Anyway, folks, that is me for today. I need to get back to my day job and finish the work that I actually have to do. And I will talk with you all later.